Hello. Back. We took a little hiatus, but we are back. It is Wednesday, which means it is Hump Day with the Humphreys. And we are excited. We have been doing a little reflecting. Thank you guys for participating in the survey and giving your feedback. We took down all the notes that you gave us, and we will be doing future lives based upon what you shared with us. But tonight we have a special topic that we wanted to get into. But before we do, we always want to say that love is the message.
And God is the messenger.
That's right. Sure. So we are going to get into this topic tonight, and it's real talk. Let's discuss race relations and how we can heal. All right. And we have our special guests tonight, the Andersons, Yay. Miles and Jackie Anderson. They are our friends. We've been friends with them for well over 10 years. Yeah. They are business partners. They're man and woman of God. They are lovely parents to three. How many children you guys have? Three, right? They have four children. Four lovely children, and there have been some people that we highly respect, and we wanted to talk about race relations, but we wanted to give a different perspective. So we wanted to bring our friends on to share from their hearts and share what the people that they are, and we know who they are, but we wanted you guys to get an idea of who they are.
Yeah, and I believe that this is a very important conversation to have. It's something that we actually wanted to talk about for several weeks now, but because of scheduling and timing and everything, but finally we were able to pin down these two amazing people so that we can have this conversation tonight. And so, friends and family, tonight it is our honor and our privilege to have this conversation with our friends, Miles and Jackie Anderson. So, Miles and Jackie, how are y'all feeling tonight? How are y'all doing?
Words can't describe. I'm feeling super, super blessed, actually, and thankful.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, me also very blessed. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. This is a topic that definitely needs to be discussed, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate the fact that you thought of us to really dive in and have some discussion about this tonight. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely.
As you both are very much well aware, what's been going on in the news media for the last several weeks with Black Lives Matter, regarding George Floyd, regarding, a lot of racial tension has been happening in our society. Mm-hmm. And, having conversations with the both of you, I really enjoyed listening to your perspective. And so I just wanted you guys just to share, what are your thoughts on the whole Black Lives Matter movement and what's happening, the things that you're hearing? What are your personal individual thoughts on it?
I'll yield to the beauty to start.
First of all, thank you guys so much. You're just a perfect example of an amazing couple and friend. It's like we talked about earlier. There's like no time passed between us in these years that we haven't talked, really. And that's the true kind of friend that is a treasure. Regarding the current situation and unrest, my daughter showed me the video, because we don't watch the news in our house. It's not streaming in here. We get things from, other sources. And when she showed me the video, I was just like this, speechless. I could not, it was like an unreal situation. And it's been kind of surreal to think about what's happening in the world right now to me, because I've never felt any kind of racial judgment toward anybody. It doesn't matter what you're packaged in, what color your skin is. I'm light skinned with a bunch of freckles and moles. I don't like my skin. I'd rather have a beautiful, solid packaging.
Right.
So I just thought we don't look at that, and we raise our kids not to judge people that way. And my youngest is when I get judgy on someone about something that they've said or done, she calls me out, which is awesome. It makes me realize that I need to stop.
Right.
I just pray for peace and love out there, that people see that not all people, not all Caucasian Americans are bad people or think bad of people of other skin tones. Mm-hmm. And who are we to judge? And just love everybody.
Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, one of the things that, again, I'm going to go back to when we first spoke earlier today. One of the things that I love about you and Miles, Jackie, is the fact that you guys have always been the kind of people that we never felt any weird racial tension. I've come and stayed at your house, right? I was at your house for several days. We ate together. We laughed together. We talked about everything. We shared business, and we shared business ideas, and we did presentations together in business. For goodness sake, I was in Kenya and Nigeria with Miles. And we're going to talk a little bit about our experience in Africa and what that was like. But I have always admired and respected you both as just two amazing, loving people. And sometimes people think that, well, if you have white friends or if you have Black friends, that somehow there's some kind of weird tension there. But I've never felt tension between the both of you. I've never heard or suspected or felt a little weirded out about anything that you guys have said or done. There's just your character and your hearts. You guys have hearts of gold. You guys love God. You truly exemplify godly principles and behaviors. And truly, you guys love Black people. It's not about whether we see skin color or not. It's basically how we judge people by the content of their character, right, and not by the color of their skin. And so you both have just exemplified that kind of relationship, because it's not about what we look like. It's not about what we have. It's not about where we live, but it's more about a relationship that we build, a loving relationship. And so that's the thing that, I really wanted to highlight about you both. A thing that's amazing about Miles, and I got to watch Miles, you guys. We went to Africa together. We were in Kenya and we were in Nigeria. And I would see Miles. He would be the only white person in an entire room of Africans, an entire room of Black people. And Miles would just fit in. He would learn. He would listen. He would look people in the eyes. He would, I was just so amazed by how he just blended in, that you didn't really see the difference, so to speak. You just saw that he was there to serve. He was humble. He was kind. He was edifying to everybody in the room. He treated everybody equally. And so I just love the fact that he's one of those people that he just fits in wherever he goes. And it doesn't matter what cultural background you are. So Miles, what is your perspective, if you can share with us, your perspective on the whole Black Lives Matter, racial tension issues that's going on in our world?
Well, thank you so much for the question. And, I'm listening to you and it's bringing back memories, as far as Africa and our relationship. I think it comes to common interest as it relates to our friendship. We're friends not because we needed a black friend or y'all needed white friends. We're friends because we found common, interest in certain areas, and we developed a friendship over time.
Mhm.
And that only happens when you look at people as people with respect and empathy. I think it's ridiculous that we don't look to put ourselves in other people's shoes, and we can't do that without listening and finding out where they are and where we're going to meet them. So whether it's white, black, or Hispanic or anything else, there's differences in financial differences. So you could have somebody in the hood versus somebody that's rich. Do you relate to them?
Mhm.
Do you get and look people in the eye and have a conversation? When you talk about being in Africa, I didn't just fit in. I stuck out like a sore thumb because I was the only white guy in the room. But I didn't treat them any different, and they wanted to get close to me to get an autograph or get a picture because that would help their situation. But when you had conversations with them as individuals, it's about, do we have a connection? Do we not? And so if you are, as an individual, coming off offensive or we're not getting that connection, then you as an individual can choose not to associate with that person. But when what people do is they're judging by somebody's skin color, I've never been able to understand that. I've never been able to relate to that. And to go to the question on the George Floyd situation, I'd like to kind of take a step back on what we talked about a little bit earlier today when you asked me to come on this call. That I think, because I've worked to reflect in myself with what happened prior to that, what's happened after that, what's going on now with the mobilization of the country around Black Lives Matter. Why now, when the organization's been around for years, and I'm there saying some of the same things, not necessarily publicly, because I got it. In order to show respect, sometimes you got to not speak your mind, because all you do is create a confrontation with certain people. So when you find out where people are, you don't agree with them when you disagree. You got to remove yourself from that situation because you can't help stupid. And so there's times that I avoid that. This is something that cannot be avoided. And so taking a step back on how is the country mobilized now? For me, what my discernment through that process is, Black Lives Matter. Yes, you hear the comment, well, every life matters. That's true. What's different now is white people, everyone, black, white, Hispanic, everyone in the country saw a black man pinned to the ground with total disrespect, with the cop knowing he's on video with his hands in his pocket saying, I'm going to kill this man and nothing you can do about it. And it's offensive, and nobody can sit quietly and say that's not offensive. And that was because he was black. So when we talk about all lives matter, yes, they do, but it's the black man that's being attacked because he's black, or the the black woman because she's black. I'm not attacked like that. The only time I've been discriminated against was in Africa over my hair. They wanted to charge me double because they said white man's hair was hard to cut. Look at my hair. It is not hard to cut. The only time I've been discriminated. So, and I laughed. I was offended, but I didn't so there's no way that I can relate when people say all lives matter. There's no way the white person, yes, that's a true statement. But why is that offensive to me because you say a Black Lives Matter?
Right.
It's only offensive because we think you're wanting to segregate, that you're more important than me. And we're missing the freaking point. It's because they haven't been more important than you all your life. They've been treated differently. And we have to emphasize that they're as important as you are, not the difference.
Right. And you know, Miles, thank you for sharing that, because that is so key. Because in order, you said something earlier. You said you treat people, you try to get a common understanding and a common ground with people. And I think it's important, if you don't know what someone is going through, right? Like when we went to Nigeria, we didn't understand what the Nigerians were going through, because we don't live in Nigeria. We don't experience what they experience. And we're not Nigerian. But we sat down, we broke bread, and we spoke to them and communicated. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that there has to be understanding, empathy, and communication. Because if there's that, that's where understanding comes from. You know, Jackie, why don't you share with us? I know you guys do a lot of international work. I mean, I know through your church you do a lot of things. What has been you guys' ability to deal with different races of people effectively? Because you know, you deal with everybody, specifically in your church. Just share a little bit about how you guys operate.
Are you talking about in our church?
Yeah, but more in your who you are as a person. But yeah, I just use your church as an example, because I know you do a lot of international outreach in your church as well.
Our church does do a lot of international outreach, and our girls are on mission trips. Madison's on mission trips all the time. We have a sign on our door. It says "Always room for more."
Mm-hmm.
That means everybody. And I know when Miles and Tracy were over there in Nigeria and Kenya, they built relationships. And we've actually had some pastors from Kenya and Nigeria come and stay in our home. It is awesome. We love having, it's amazing to learn from, you can learn so much from other people. People are people. It's like my husband said, people are people. The one cool thing that our church did while they were in town, I introduced them to our store, and they had brought some things made from their wives' church in, I think it was Kenya. Mm-hmm. And they ended up purchasing it and putting it in our store at the church, because our store is all about fair trade, fair market, fair trade. And so they did that. And these guys were just incredible, and they traveled all over. And I'm sure we would, Miles would love to go back to Nigeria, right, Ben?
I've been talking to some just recently, some Nigerians, and I swear their chicken is the best chicken in the world. Now, Kenya, the chicken is the toughest chicken in the world. In Nigeria, they have some of the best chicken.
But it's organic, right?
Yes.
Oh, it's organic.
It's all organic.
It's definitely organic. Hey guys, listen. I have a comment here from someone. Andrea Roberson says, "Praying is the key, and standing up for what's right. Education on the situation sheds light on this issue. Thanks for having real talk, and thank you all for being an amazing couple." Well, thank you, Andrea. But yeah, talk about that. Talk about praying and standing up for what's right. Maybe we can discuss that a little bit.
The faith aspect of this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all about prayer. Matter of fact, I was talking to Miles today. I've been watching a lot of church online because we can't go to church. And I've been watching our church through this thing, and things are not getting addressed that I really think should be addressed regarding what's going on in our world. And I'm not understanding why, as a pastor and as a church, things aren't being addressed. So that's making me really pray about where I need to be focusing my, my attendance. Mm-hmm. I mean, we pray at home and do Bible studies and things like that. And it really is sometimes the best thing you can do is pray. And, here's the thing. I hope everybody watching this right now that you feel and give thanks for all the blessings that are still out there, that God pours out so many blessings constantly, that you got to actually ask him to stop.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, wow, Jackie, that's powerful. And you said something about, your church not having this conversation. This is a difficult subject for a lot of people. Sometimes it's difficult because they don't want to deal with it. Sometimes it's difficult because maybe they have their own opinions that may not be popular, or sometimes they don't even understand that it's a thing that needs to be addressed. So those are the three things that we've noticed is an issue here. And that's why we wanted to have this conversation, because
and look, us having this conversation is not easy, because even as we're sitting here, we're trying to get through this, it's not an easy conversation for anyone to have. Because you want to watch your words, you don't want to say anything that's going to hurt or offend other people. But the truth of the matter is, there's no easy way. When something is challenging, you just have to do it. There's no easy way around it. But once you start to have the conversation and more people talk about it, more people start talk. And as Miles said earlier, we're not friends because it's like, okay, I need to find white friends or I need to find Black friends. We're friends because we just met one another and we connected on many different levels. We connected on business. We connected relationally as friends. But it is a conversation that needs to be had. And yes, people are looking to the church to have this conversation, but very often they're not, because again, sometimes with church too, it's an issue of, if we talk about this, we may lose people in the congregation, which they lose out on other things, but that's a whole nother topic, right? So people are afraid to lose the congregation or whoever it is that they have. The good thing is, us being on here talking, we're not worried about losing anything. We're just here. It's all about gaining, in our opinion, gaining a different perspective and getting people to see that Black people and white people can actually be genuine friends. We can be friends with one another, love on one another, travel together, do business. Sometimes we go months without talking, but when we get back together, it's like we pick up right where we left off from, right? So Miles, what are you thinking right now?
Well, when you're talking, it's about a healing. There's been a harm done. It's about a healing. And what were the three things, Lou, that you said?
Well, I said, typically speaking, some people don't like to talk about racial things because it's a subject that they feel uncomfortable with. And that's one. The second one is maybe they have an opinion that's not a popular opinion for, let's say, the church or the workplace or whatever. So they'd rather keep it to themselves. And then the third thing is sometimes they're not even aware that it's an issue. So
that's where I wanted to pick up, is because that's totally unacceptable today. And when I say today, at least initially after the incident, as a church, we do not, we don't have the luxury of not addressing that. And the fact that our church was silent was offensive to me. Okay. So, and then the second part is, if they had an opinion that was in disagreement with that man, that the cops acted appropriately, that's even more offensive to me, or as offensive. Both of them are offensive. And so this is not something that you can be silent about at this point. You don't have to go out and, I'm not saying you got to pick up a sign and march, and everybody's going to, treat it a little bit different. But the marching, this going on in this movement from the country, is because people have recognized, different than they ever have before, there's always going to be, 30% of the country that's just flat out stupid. So you can't help everybody. But you have, I mean, this is real talk or plain talk. I don't know, but
This
you're gonna have people that are stupid. But when the other 67% of the people aren't saying this is something we got to address, then that's a problem. And I think that the country is saying that this is totally wrong and we have to address it positively and not create additional divide. Why are we talking about the dadgum federal flag and the monuments and that? Civil disobedience, I'm for that. Tearing down the monuments. No, let's go through the process. I'm not for the vandalism part of that or burning down a place, but I also understand the frustration. At what point do you see me dying? Where do you see me as all lives matter? Because my life damn sure hasn't mattered as a black man.
Right.
I've been treated different all my life because I'm black. It's a difference of, no, we have to do something to stand up against this, injustice that's gone on for all of our lives, a lot longer.
Yeah. And that's the part that you had said earlier about empathy. If in order to come to an understanding, and this is just my opinion, but in order to come to an understanding and ease any sort of problems or racial tensions, you have to empathize with someone who is feeling marginalized. And so if you think everything is okay and someone says, hey, everything is not okay, I'm not really doing well, and a whole bunch of people are saying the same thing, you got to take a minute and say, okay, well, how are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Because I'm not experiencing it. So we have a question here. This is from my friend Jay. He says, do you believe that white privilege exists? And if so, what part do you think it plays what part do they think?
Okay, what part do you think you personally will play to help eradicate it?
Okay.
Well, I think it starts, just with this conversation. I mean, this is the first time. That's why I appreciate you so much for this platform and it literally asking. The first part of that question is, hell yes, it exists. It's the white privilege. I had white privilege in Africa. Wow. When I went to Africa, I got treated special because I was white. So yes, I believe it exists. What part do I play? I mean, I'm speaking out now. I speak out every time I see any injustice. I don't let it lay.
And when people make jokes, I shut it down.
And I can vouch for that. I can definitely vouch for that.
Don't even go there.
I can vouch for that.
But I think to eradicate it here, I think the question goes deeper, and I may be off base on answering the question, but I think the question goes deeper is because one of the things that happened to me in Kenya is I literally cried in a hotel and said, God, because things were so filthy and so impoverished, and I said, God, why did you bring me here? Because we prayed before we got there. I got there. I said, God, I can't save these people. And God put it on my heart. He says, your job is not to save everyone. That's my job. Your job is to positively impact the people I put in front of you. So what I do is I don't know that I can eradicate it because it comes into the childhood with the racist people teaching the racism to the young people that grow up in that environment. You're spewing the hatred comes in many, many different forms. And if you don't check it when you see it, it continues. Absolutely. And so it has to be addressed then. When you put a couple of kids, 1 and 2 and 3 year olds in the sandbox, they kissing and slobbering all over each other. It's the person that comes and grabs them and says, you can't go play with that white person. I mean, that black person, whatever it is. That you got to separate from them. When we teach them, that we teach this hatred. And that's why I don't know that I can help the 30%. But we got to bring recognition which this is the first time in my life that I've seen a movement, and God help us, let's not miss out on it. Let's continue the fight to make the change. I can't change the stupidity in those people's racist mind, but we can show them a different environment.
Absolutely.
Amen.
And I agree with you about children too, because children are innocent, and young people, for the most part, are innocent because racism, sexism, those things are taught. That's learned behavior. So Jay says that's a great, authentic answer. Much appreciated. We have another question for you. It comes from our friend Faith, and she says, what do you all do to educate your friends that feel that there's no such thing as racism?
Your white friend.
Oh, your white friend, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have friends like that.
Right.
Friends is and I don't mean this disrespected, but to be my friend, I treat everybody as my friend when I meet them. Mm-hmm. And then we make a choice of whether that we're going to associate with them from very early on. Mm-hmm. And when I see that, they're no longer my friend. We don't, I may call it out if I see it. I may check it. We had a dinner the other night at some people's house, and I was appalled because you don't even know it. But because everything that's going on in the news, I didn't even finish my dinner. We went upstairs. They stopped talking about it because I said, I came over for a nice dinner, but I'll never be back, and we're no longer friends.
Wow.
Now, they can either get the clue or they can ask me and I'll let them know. But I can't change the stupidity that I heard in their minds because that's deep-rooted ignorance. And so let's put on boxing gloves and fight? Because that's the only solution if I bridge that conversation. Right. We're no longer friends.
Right.
You can't argue with this. There's no point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to convince.
That's a deep problem in the country that we've done is polarized. So you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're gay, you're straight, you're black. We put everybody in this category, and it's especially the political environment. Mm-hmm. And so you say I'm affiliated over here, then that means you are for all this stuff when you only agree with a fraction of that stuff. But we put you in that box and we want to spew hatred at each other, and there's no conversation so that we can find some common
ground
interest to solve common ground to solve our bigger issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it really that important of whether you're a Democrat or Republican? Mm-hmm. I know some good Republicans, I know some good Democrats, and I know some pieces of crap on both sides.
Absolutely.
I know some racist black people. I know some black people that are racist. I can't be around them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth. That's the truth. And I think that's powerful for you sharing that. Faith says that's powerful. And I agree with you with it being a deep-rooted ignorance.
Yes.
So absolutely. Babe, go ahead. I know you had another question.
No. I was just going to say, man, this is really good. And I thank you for sharing that, Miles. And I can only imagine that as we go throughout this year and we continue to see a lot of people being held accountable. Now, I know in the news there have been certain situations. There was this white couple, not a couple, but a father and a daughter who pulled a gun. They were having some kind of altercation with a Black woman and her daughter. And the white daughter and her father, the white woman pulled a gun on them at the end of their conflict and literally pointed a gun at them, and they were screaming and everything, and they got in their car and pulled off. And recently the police caught them and they got arrested. And I know there've been a lot of talks about Karens. They're calling women the Karens are the women who falsely accused, or they're telling on Black people. So there's all these things that are happening. There's a certain level of accountability that's starting to take place. Can you guys speak about that, or do you have any thoughts about some of the convictions that are taking place right now?
So I guess we do not have, we have TVs, but we don't have television. So we don't have cable or anything in our house. So I'm not aware of some of that. Some of that stuff we get on social media when I pull up my computer, or I got news flash or stuff like that. I see some. I'm not aware of that. One of the things that I was thinking though is this is real talk, and if I just speak what comes to my heart, and I wanted to say if I offend anybody, I'm gonna apologize, but I'm not apologizing. If I offend you, then I think that needs to start a conversation. Not I'm offended. Let's address it so that I can have a better understanding of how I offended you, so I can be better as a person to not do that in the future, because I see your point of view. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we say, "Oh, I'm offended," and then we go and we don't really address that issue. We don't challenge that. And this is a platform that needs to be addressed. So if something's said, it's easy for me to say, well, that was taken out of context. I didn't mean that. I'm just speaking from the heart. So I'm meaning what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times that we just cut that conversation off and say, well, that person's offensive, or that person said this.
Yeah, all
as it relates to
Go ahead, Jackie, say that again.
I said it's all the words are coming from our heart out of love, not anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's just it is, and I'm glad people are being held accountable for their action or their inactions. Inaction is movement and what's going on, and that's been a personal development of mine, to be active versus inactive. Mm-hmm. Because we can't stand for some of the things that are going on right now, and when we see it, 'cause we don't see it a lot in our area, but I'm sure you do because you're in the city, and you see a whole lot more. But I don't see it a whole lot, but when I do, it gets addressed.
And I think Jackie, to your point, that's where. Because the next question I was going to ask you is about healing. Like, how do we fix it? How do we address things so that we can move? Because a lot of people like to stay in the anger zone. They like to stay offended, like you said, Miles. They like to get offended, but nobody likes to say, okay, you're offended. All right, now talk to me so I can no longer offend you. So now I can get some understanding. So to that point, I think it starts where, when you see it, you address it, mm-hmm. right? Because in order for us to elevate as a country, in order for us to elevate in race relations, we have to like I'll give you an example, and I always give this example. Like, in order for sexism to get diminished, men have to address other men that are being sexist when there's just men around. Because if you do it only when a woman is there, then it's not going to have the impact. But if you do it when it's just a bunch of guys together, you say, hey, man, don't say that, or you shouldn't do that. That's not right. You're now, that's where the change starts. Because I'm not going to change, like to Miles' point, a guy who's maybe 50, 60 years old, and he's deep-seated in his ignorance. Easy. Well, listen, Miles, I'm in that. I'm knocking on that door, brother. To trust me, it's cool. But you know what I mean? Like, if there's a young person there, there's a younger guy there, and he's hearing it, and he says, "Wow, man, this is the first time I've ever heard someone not laugh at the joke, or not like you said, at the party or at the dinner." Everybody probably looked at you like, whoa, what's his problem? But there's probably a younger person who may have said, wow, maybe this isn't cool. Maybe I should change my thinking. And that's where I think it starts. What do you think?
Yeah, I 1000%. Thanks, babe. That was a very good example. Miles, I think that this is so powerful that we are having this authentic, honest conversation. And healing, I believe, starts exactly with what you said. Address it on the spot. Don't go away and be offended and start talking for people that you know are going to agree with you. I always say, in order for us to grow, you got to have people around you that's willing to say, hey, you did this. You were wrong when you said that. You were wrong when you did this. You should apologize. You should whatever, when it's being addressed. That's where healing takes place. What's happening in our world today is there's a lot of people that don't have the courage or the boldness to speak up. So they go and talk to a bunch of yes people that is going to soothe their ignorance even more and tell them, yeah, you weren't right. You were right. You have every right to feel that way. Yeah. They want the yes people. That is what continues to keep ignorance proliferating throughout our society, is that people don't want to be corrected. People don't want to hear the truth. People don't want to deal with the truth. Everybody just wants to go off in their little comfortable corner, in their little comfortable environments, and just kind of regurgitate the same madness that is keeping our society stagnant when it comes to race relations, right? And so I just, I really wanted to share that, because I think healing starts with conversation. It's just like if you're in a challenging situation in your marriage, right? We talk to a lot of couples behind the scenes, and one of the challenges that we are finding is that there's a lack of communication. A lack of communication, a lack of heart to heart, and really saying what's going on. So what do some people do? They'll go tell their sister, their best friend, and they're able to talk about it. And then when you ask them, well, did you talk to your spouse about it? Well, no, not yet. I'm like, but that's who you needed to talk to first. The same thing happens with race relations. And Miles, I'm so proud of you that when you went to that dinner party, you didn't just sit there and take that nonsense, that ignorance, or pretend like you were okay with it, that you literally interrupted. You did a conscious interrupt. And you said, no, this is not right. I will not do this. And you guys, if you think I have an attitude, then we can't be friends, right? And so I just wanted to reiterate that to everyone listening. So, to further talk about healing, what else do you think you can share when it comes to us healing this whole race relations issue in our society?
I think we need to just ask questions. When people are feeling a certain way, we need to ask them, why are you feeling that way? Like when we were
Where does that come from?
at the dinner party, why are you saying these things? Ask them, because they may not even know why they're saying these things, to be honest.
Where did you hear that? One of the things is, so much of the country is watching one particular news channel. So if you're going to regurgitate Fox News, when you have an independent thought, then share that with me. I don't need to hear what was over there. The same way on MSNBC or CNN or whatever. It's like, it's television for a reason. It's telling you your vision. You need to come up with your own damn vision for your life and your family. And research the stuff that you're saying, because that's not true what you're saying.
Wow.
The dangerous part of what we're doing in the country is we're telling a half truth. It is far more dangerous than just flat out lying, because then you have to go, oh, well, that part's true.
Right.
And it's acceptable throughout the country that we just go, oh, well, and we take a fraction of the truth, which then you can't dispute the entire rest of the lie because a fraction of it's true. No, dispute the lie.
Right. Wow, that is so powerful because that is something I hear a lot of the talking points, and I don't hear independent thought. I don't hear someone saying, "Hey, I sat down and I thought about this. What do you think? Because I got a problem with this, or I don't understand this," and have the conversation not just to prove your point, but to really understand. Because that's what I think is how.
But even more importantly, how many people are saying, I prayed about this and asked God to give me wisdom on this situation, on this topic, on these people? How many people are actually praying? We tout around that we're Christians, we pray, we love God. You may love God, but do you love God's creations? You know, what is God saying? Because a lot of people get their information off of Fox News, they get it off of CNN, they get it off of Facebook. You know, Google have become a lot of people's gods, so they Google everything and they don't get true wisdom, knowledge, and understanding from God, which is a problem in our society. Because I can guarantee you, if you tell me you're a Christian and you really sat down and pray about some of this stuff, you would get godly wisdom. And it actually, the perspective, that evil, hateful, negative perspective that some people have will be obliterated if they truly believe in God, if they're truly godly, and if they're truly walking in
the hate wouldn't be there. If they were truly godly, their hate wouldn't be there. Neither would the fear.
And that may be the question. That may be the question is instead of, where'd you get that or where does that come from? It's like, is that of God? Because you're spreading a gossip. So even if it's factual, is, probably not of God. Because if it's hateful, we're not talking about the positive. Then what's on the news is going to be negative because that's what sells. I don't remember who I heard it from, but if we put on the front page of the newspaper and you walk by, it's going to be a cloudy, rainy day today. Nobody's buying the paper. But if you put on there big storms coming, oh, I need to find out when, where, how. Now I'm buying the paper.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what the news does is they are selling a product and we're buying it. And the more hateful, deep-rooted, opinionated separatism that we're getting, the more we're polarizing the country and we're digging that in. And I think it's best to quarantine yourself from the news because no matter who wins the president, no matter who, it ain't going to help your job. It ain't going to help you, take care of yourself, take care of your family, stay focused. When we were building over in Nigeria, they had the presidential election. And we were in the coffee business. It's like, whether that president wins or the incumbent wins, tomorrow you're going to get up and drink coffee, focus on your business because neither one of them are helping you.
That's right.
They asked me about being in the ministry over there in Nigeria. I said the transportation ministry because the country's a mess. So you got just unbelievable. Just focus on your family and quit listening and quarantine yourself from the news.
Amen.
Hold on a second.
We're actually being programmed by it.
That's true.
Issues are coming from, all these beliefs are coming from what they're being told over and over and over and over again through the media.
Absolutely. And Tracy used to work for the news, and she told me it's literally like what you said. They've got to sell the program. So they put the negative news in the front and the negative news towards the latter part. In the middle, they fill it with some of the sports, the weather, a little bit of this, keep you in negative in the middle. And then so it's like a negative sandwich, negative in the top, negative in the middle, and negative just before you go. And then they hit you with the weather. And the weather's probably going to be a bad day.
Our friend Jason says, I found that some of my Caucasian colleagues are ignorant to what is going on today. One of my colleagues in conversation decided to be neutral. I no longer moved forward with that business acquisition. Lou, as a Black man, have you found some of your Caucasian friends or peers treat you differently as a Black man versus a man?
All right. So now I work in, I'm in a lot of different areas. So I'm in the business area, I'm in corporate America, and I'm in just regular, life
Investments.
life area. And what I found is some people don't necessarily treat me differently, but I do know that certain conversations are not had. I know certain, just like what Jackie was saying, like there's certain topics that come up that
Makes them uncomfortable.
makes people uncomfortable, so they just try not to talk about it or they shift the conversation. So one of the things about me is that I don't allow, I may not be as demonstrative as you were, Miles, but I do cut certain conversations short and I address certain things in a way where just because we're in a business, or just because I want your business, or just because we're doing, something where I need your agreement, I'm not gonna, put myself down or kind of not address something that needs to be addressed, especially when it comes to racism or the treatment of people of color. So I haven't personally experienced that other than, maybe some corporate shenanigans, stuff like that. But if I did, I address it because people have said certain things over the years and I've addressed it. And one of the ways that I've addressed it that to me is the most powerful way is I ask the question, well, why did you say that? Why do you feel that? Why do you think that? Why would you think that I would do that? And that starts a conversation because a lot of times people have preconceived notions or they've been trained a certain way or their experience has been a certain way. And when I challenge it in a conversational way, like saying, answer me now they can't run, they can't get in, oh, he's angry, whatever, because I really want to talk to you about it. And I found that a lot of times that addresses it right then and there. So I hope that answers the question.
Go ahead.
Do you find that you help? There's ignorance and then there's stupidity. But does that bring them along that they have a better understanding of their ignorance to that situation?
Yeah, in my experience, there was a young man who we were getting into a conversation about a situation on the job, and it was kind of like promotions and non-promotions and why people of color weren't getting promoted. And then when I addressed it a certain way, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I basically asked him, I said, well, why do you think this is? Do you think that the people do not want to get promoted? Do you think that they don't want extra money or they don't want extra responsibility? Ask yourself this question, why are they not getting promoted? And what it did is it gave him something to think about. Now, over the years, did it shift his perspective? I don't know. But at that moment, it stopped him from saying and thinking, oh, these black guys are lazy, or they just don't want, they're just not ambitious enough to think, well, I never thought about it like that. And that's why I said, I think that addressing something and giving somebody something to think about and empathizing with someone is how you're going to get some understanding,
Yeah, Jay says, I agree. People who look the same as the perpetrators need to address the perpetrators. That is how healing begins. If you address them while the victim is present, it's just pandering. You're just trying to look good. I appreciate that Miles addressed the group of white people at dinner the way he did. It has more of an impact. Yeah, I believe that whenever a situation takes place and you address it in front of all parties, it does make a difference. It does open dialogue, and you have to be willing. If we want to heal as a race, as a culture, as a society, we want healing on different levels. I do believe that we cannot again, we cannot be afraid. We can't be fearful. We have to be willing to be bold. We have to be willing to speak up and speak our truth in that very moment. Because if you don't, you kind of lose the moment, and then you go off and you start thinking, gosh, I wish I had said this. I wish I had done this. Or you just had an authentic opportunity to create a situation that could actually be very transformative for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, guys, this has been very powerful. I always like to end everything that we do with this. We always like to address, problems, situations.
But then them each to share.
Yeah, but at the end, we always like to give a solution, right? That's the goal. We want to bring healing. We want to bring a solution. So, what do you guys feel? And each one of you guys take it. What do you think we can do to heal, love, and respect each other? I mean, I know we talked about a lot of stuff, but just to reiterate for people who've gotten on late, go ahead, Jackie, and then you go, Miles.
Well, I think we do need to ask questions of why people feel the way that they feel. And maybe by doing that, we can get in their world a little bit and understand more, and maybe help them to see things a little differently. That's really the only way, is to communicate and love them, and, not judge them based on your first impressions, but find out what's going on with them, because everybody has a story about what's going on in their lives and how things have affected them. And if you can get in their world, sometimes you just never know what one little thing that you could say to them will change their whole outlook on something.
Right.
You just never know what kind of impact your words can have on somebody. And just communication is key, and not to let it go, especially if you don't agree with it. Find out, ask the questions. Why do you think that? Or where are you getting your information? Things like that.
Mm-hmm. Powerful.
And with love. Just do it with love, not confrontationally, just out of curiosity and, love and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't talk about this, Jackie and I didn't talk about this, but you keep talking, you can't steal my stuff that I was going to say. So. I thought you were done there for a second, then you went into love, because it comes into, and it's right there in the Bible, and that's what's the most important commandment? We got the 10 Commandments, and what did Jesus say? It's love your God, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And then the second, that's just as important, is love the neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. And if you go deeper in that, what is the neighbor? And then what is yourself? You got people that don't love themselves. Mm-hmm. You need to start loving yourself. And then you need to respect yourself, respect your body, respect how you act. Mm-hmm. And then you need to respect your neighbor. And that's who you come in contact with. That's what I got in Kenya with all that poverty that we're around is your job isn't to solve the world's problem. That's God's. Your job is to shine and to really positively impact everybody you're coming in contact with. Mm. And that positivity may be an attack of a situation, but that's because you can't stand for hatred. You have to love everyone, and you got to love them enough to tell them the truth.
Mm. Yeah. Mm. 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 Powerful.
Wow, that is so powerful, Miles. I just want to thank you both. We love you guys. I have so many fond memories of our trips around the world, our trips nationally and internationally. Mm-hmm. We laughed a lot. I was just to share with you guys, Miles and I had to get on a minibus, a small minibus, literally packed with people from Nairobi, Kenya, all the way to Kizzy. Was it Kizzy that we were going to?
Yeah. Yeah, Kissy.
Like, how many hours was that? Was that like 8 hours?
I don't know. It was an 8-passenger van. I think we had 60 people in there. So, I think it was 8 hours. One stop to go pee in the ground. They had a hole in the ground at the rest stop. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, I remember.
There too.
I just remember us being on this minibus, tightly packed in. Miles was the only Black person on the bus, but I'm sorry. Oh yeah, white person. Sorry. Well, maybe Miles, maybe that wasn't a mistake. You're just, on the inside. It's on the inside. The people can't see it. But yeah, we've had some powerful times, and just seeing how you have operated in different environments, how you've loved on people. I love your respect for people of all backgrounds, your level of respect and honor, the way you treated people who were poor, and the way you treated people who were high ranking, whether they were priests or pastors or presidents. Just, you treated everyone the same, and you made a great impact on me watching you as a white man who, you could be, as they call privilege, but I never saw you walking in that level of privilege, which is more ego filled, right? It was more, we're human beings. I love people of all backgrounds. I respect people. And you walked that walk for all the years I've known you. I haven't seen you shift or change. And so I wanted people to know that it is possible to have Black and white people be great friends, to respect one another, to honor one another, to love on one another, to teach one another, to correct one another, and it not create offense, it not create a negative reaction, and we learn from each other. So I am very grateful for the both of you. Jackie, the way you hosted me in your home. We sat at the dinner table, we ate together, we talked about everything, loved on one another. You were intrigued by how I was gelling my hair to make it curly. And so I just love that. I love what we have created over the years. And I just, again, thank you guys for doing what you're doing. And we'll keep having this conversation. It needs to continue, and not just on Facebook Live, but it needs to continue in all our conversations when the need arises.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But we thank you guys. We appreciate you taking time. God bless you. As always, we love you guys.
God bless you. We love you and appreciate the work you're doing through this platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Love you guys.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. So we'll be back next week. Hump Day with the Humphreys. We'll see you. God bless. Take care, everybody.
God bless everyone. Take care.